The bank made the decision in their final meeting of the year to leave the cash rate on hold, 4.35%. This comes, of course, after the most recent CPI data, inflation data, showed a slight drop from 4.9% in October, to 4.9% in October, down from 5.6% in September. It's still a long way, almost double from where the RBA wants to get it down to, its target band of between 2 and 3%. Joining me now for a bit of analysis, Sky News business editor Ross Greenwood. Well, do you reckon it was a CPI drop, Ross, that meant there was no change to the cash rate today?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain it was. There's almost no doubt that that's what they were thinking. They've got a bit of time. There's one issue. Michelle Bullock, the Reserve Bank governor, has talked about sticky inflation and homegrown inflation. And the real problem of the monthly inflation data you were talking about there is it doesn't pick up a lot of the services or the homegrown inflation, if you like, that we've got. And so really you've got a situation there whereby because it's not picking up that style of inflation, that won't come out until the quarterly inflation number comes out. They, I think, just want to sit back and just see just what this inflation story really does look like. And of course, by that time, they'll also get a lot of the retail sales figures from over Christmas time. And there's sort of conflicting information here about whether people are really doing it tough or indeed whether they're able to continue to keep on spending. But this is the bottom line of the whole thing. If you have a look at somebody with, say, the average mortgage in Australia is about $750,000 for people taking out a new mortgage, and you have a look at that $1,800 a month. So we're talking here $23,000, $24,000 a year after tax. That family's having to pay to pay that mortgage. Or $1 million, you're really talking the best part of $30,000 a year. So, that's where really, even if interest rates go nowhere from here for quite some time, that's a burden that those families are going to carry into 2024, along with not only the higher cost of living and higher energy prices, but really, as I say, just the prospect that maybe the jobs market's going to tighten up for them as well.
And you say 2024, but it's 2024 and beyond. I mean, these increases are staying there unless rates come down and come down dramatically. No one's really forecasting that. The best they're saying is they might steady, they might remain in a hold position. But if you're someone who's looking at an extra $30,000 post-tax, as you rightly say, to put into their mortgage for next year, it's likely to be that and more for the year after and the year after. And of course, their wages aren't going up by $30,000 a year.
No, that's the point. And here's the issue, is that people now talking about interest rates coming down. Well, in the United States, they're talking about rates falling in the first half of next year. But here in Australia, because Australia's central bank, the Reserve Bank, was slower than other central banks to start raising rates and then hasn't raised rates as high as other central banks around the world have, it's likely that we're going to be the last, particularly of the Western economies, to come out of these rates. And really, if you think about this is about the so-called glide to try and hang on the jobs to keep Australia's economy going sharp. But the fact is that while you're doing that, you're also creating more inflation that leaves the next step to interest rates staying higher for longer.
What about these reports today, Ross, that first home buyers are committing to larger mortgages than any other time in Australia's history? Indeed, I read that some of these repayments are 65, so two-thirds higher than they were pre-pandemic. Now, I am staggered. That 65% figure staggers me. I'm hoping they realise it's all got to be paid back and with interest.
Well, you'd really hope so, because a lot of these people who are buying them, first home buyers, are relying on the fact that they've got two incomes coming into their homes. They've got to hope that they can keep those two jobs right the way through. And they've also got to hope that banks take what is right now the sort of, if you like, generous attitude that they generally don't throw people out of their homes if their circumstances change. But the fact of the matter is, if all of a sudden you get a sharp increase in the jobless rate because we've got this problem with inflation and higher interest rates for longer, then that is almost the worst scenario, the hard landing for our economy. And so you just wonder, A, who's lending the money to people, and then B, sort of what tests are being sort of committed to actually have people get these loans. So I just find it quite staggering in some ways. There's still a lot of money in our community, make no bones about that. Most people are coping because they've got a job, but you do worry at the edges, not only for people renting and desperate to get out of the rental markets, but also for new home buyers, as you say, taking on these enormous mortgages that, frankly, in some cases, I'd actually balk at myself.
What about this report today that the biggest super funds in the country are split on whether customers should be automatically, so without their permission, rolled into pension products when they get to retirement age, which I take to mean there'll be some move to stop them getting a lump sum, let's say, and paying up the remainder of their mortgage and force them into a pension. Is that what's on the table?
Peter, this is you and me. Come on, now think about this in your own terms. Whose money is it? Right? This is a really important debate. I'm surprised that people aren't already out protesting in the streets over this. Because ultimately, when the compulsory superannuation system was set up in Australia, which has been quite brilliant for people's savings and for their outcomes, we were told that this was because the government couldn't afford long-term the pensions for all the baby boomers and beyond, and that we'd have to look after ourselves. It's your money. You've got the choices to what you do with it. Well, now the government's now saying, well, actually, maybe you don't have choices to what you do with it, because maybe we actually need you to put it into these income-styled annuity products so that instead of being able to say, I want to go take a trip to Europe or pay off the car or pay off the house, it might be a case where, sorry, you've now got to have an income coming and then manage from that. Now, that to me is not the spirit of where they were originally. There's incentives for you to take out these products, which go to social services and also tax. So there's good reason for people to take them out already. Being compelled to do it, I wonder whether that's a step too far. And already, with some of the big superannuation funds, that has split them in terms of their support for that idea, or whether, in fact, people should really be able to treat this as their own money.
Socialism on super there, Ross. You're right. Healthy reminder, you and I are almost at that tipping point to start thinking about these things. Well, I certainly am. So that's not good. That's not good.
It's our money.
Thanks for your time, as always.
It's our money,
Ross.
Peter. It's our money. Never
It is our
forget that.
money. It is our money, Ross. No, I tell you what, I do not forget that.